Oh, God, thanks. Um, to give you some context for some prayers that were answered, some time ago, when I moved here, I had a lot of output, and I bought a house, and it turned out that what I made and then all of my expenses just about equaled, so that I wasn't able to accrue any kind of a savings. And I was trying to calculate and see what's it going to take for me to have enough that would be a good buffer and a good support. And so I made the calculations. I had this number that was just astronomical. And so for a year and a half, it was like no progress, zero progress. And so I thought, I don't know how this is ever going to happen. And so, well, two things happened in the last few months. One, it just seemed like out of nowhere, I was able to save. And so my savings got bigger and bigger, and it was nowhere near where it needed to be, but it was like it seemed like, the moving of God, and I was really encouraged by that. And then another thing that happened was I went home to visit my family in March, and my mom's voice was gone when I went, and I guess it had gone out shortly before I went out there. And so I had asked her about it, and she couldn't really talk. And we're a big family of, I think, something like 11 now with nieces and nephews. So, in a big family, if you can't talk, you're never heard. And she had basically no voice. It was just a really faint wisp of a high falsetto, and she couldn't project herself. And so, when I moved here, I bought a phone, and that was mainly for my mom. My dad's like an automaton. He doesn't care about, making those kind of connections so much. But for a mom, that's really important to connect. So I got a phone so I could call her back. And when I got back home this year in April, I'd call back, and I could just barely hear her. And it was, a month went by, and it was the same, and 2 months went by, and it was the same, and 3 months went by. And so she had told me that she had some acid reflux problems, and she just assumed that the caustic elements of that acid had burned away her vocal cords. It seemed that was what would happen, and that she wasn't going to be able to have a voice anymore. And so her grandkids were going to grow up not hearing her voice, and she would have trouble. She couldn't drink water. She would try, and she couldn't control which pipe it would go down. So she was choking just all of it, constantly. And she used to tell me over the phone in those months, you never know how much you miss singing until you can't sing anymore, and which she just regarded as the purest form of praise. And so I told her, I'm praying. I'm going to pray. I'm going to be praying for you. And I think the week Angelo got saved, that Friday night, he and I were on the prayer call together. And so I told Angelo, pray for my mom, that her voice would come back. I said that it's been months and months, and at this point, it's like she's not going to have a voice. It's going to be a miracle, maybe, and that's the only thing I have is I just pray for a miracle that her voice would come back somehow. And he prayed for her. And this past Friday night, I told we were on the call with the Young Brothers. It was Bobby and Tave and Tyler and Ian, and I think Grant, so a bunch of us were on this prayer call, and I said the same, agree with me in prayer for my mom, for her voice to come back. And so this week, I was heading home, and I had seen a lot of the saints in just one day, and I checked my mailbox, and in this mailbox was it was a check that brought my savings to exactly the number that I had calculated I'd needed, which was unthinkable, and it was, like I said, astronomical. I was so overjoyed, and it was really, it wasn't about, anything monetary. It was just about, this is what I prayed for, and it was precise. It was like right to the number, and so I was so excited. I called home and told my parents, and we were talking, and I was so excited. I must have been like a minute or 2 minutes into the call before I stopped and said, Mom, you're speaking with your normal voice. And she said, yeah. She said, yeah. I said, I've been drinking water. And she said, I haven't even been thinking about it, drinking water, and it's going down the right tube. It's no problem. And the voice is coming back. Wow. And she said she had nothing to account for it other than, it was just the mercy of God, a miracle for her. I was so encouraged, and it was, I didn't know what to do with myself. That these were such great prayers of mine, and I was trying to analyze, why is this so affecting to me? And I realized it's not about any kind of material blessing, and it's not even so much about the healing of a loved one. It was really just about the fact it was increased faith. It was that I can bring my problems to God, and He's somebody to be relied upon. Yes. It was so encouraging to me, and I just thought, God, if I get to church, I'm not going to just praise you with my heart. I got to praise you with my lips. I was so thankful for what God came through for me this week, and I pray it encourages you too.